Lan Vy stared at the glowing screen, her name repeating across forged pages. Her chest tightened as disbelief turned into slow, cold fear. Every signature matched hers, except for one tiny imperfection. The curl of the V rose too high, like her mother's handwriting. Her pulse pounded against her throat as she searched her emails. There they were, messages from her mother weeks ago. Sweet reminders wrapped around financial questions. Did you get your tax forms, dear? Can you check your investment reports? Each message now felt like a trap disguised as care. Lan Vy scrolled faster, her vision blurring. Her mother had always been precise, persuasive, patient. She had built trust like a cage made of love. And Lan Vy had walked willingly inside. The phone rang again. Nam Fong's name lit up the screen. He had been her friend since university. She answered, voice trembling but steady. I think someone forged my signature, she said. He paused, instantly alert. Who? He asked. My mother, she whispered. There was silence, the kind that fills every corner of a room. Bring everything here, he said at last. At his office, stacks of legal folders covered the polished table. Nam Fong examined the papers, his brows furrowed. These are perfect copies, he murmured. Not perfect enough, Lan Vy said. She pointed to the small, rounded loops on every L. It's her hand. I'd recognize it anywhere. Nam Fong leaned back, exhaling. This isn't just one document, he said quietly. He opened a file on his laptop, pulling financial records. Her name appeared again and again. Credit cards, loans, a mortgage under her ID. Even a transfer request from her investment account. Her entire financial life was under siege. Your parents and brother co-signed everything, he said. Lan Vy felt the air leave her lungs. She remembered the Sunday dinners. Her mother's warm smile. Her father's casual talk about responsibility. Her brother's silent nods. It had all been rehearsed. Every kind word was a distraction. Every dinner was a transaction. Nam Fong closed the folder slowly. This is systematic fraud, he said. They've been planning this for months. Lan Vy gripped the edge of the desk. The tremor in her hands betrayed her calm tone. I trusted them, she said softly. I thought family meant safety. Nam Fong looked at her with quiet empathy. Sometimes family is where the danger starts. She nodded, eyes burning but dry. I need to confront them, she said. Not yet, he warned. Let's gather everything first. She shook her head. No, I can't sleep while they're still pretending nothing happened. The office fell silent, except for the faint hum of the city. Lan Vy gathered the documents into a neat pile. Her voice was cold now, resolved. If they built this on lies, I'll end it with truth. Nam Fong didn't stop her. He just said, then be ready, they won't surrender easily. She met his gaze, unwavering. They taught me how to fight, she said. But they forgot, I learned better than them. Lan Vy sat at her kitchen table, the stack of forged documents between her fingers, breathing slow and steady. She called Lin Ha, the financial advisor who had helped her untangle messy portfolios before. Lin answered in 2 rings, calm and precise, the voice of someone used to bad news. Lan Vy explained everything in clipped sentences, the way she would in court, measured and exact. Lin asked for access to bank statements and transfer logs so she could trace where money had gone. Lan Vy forwarded dozens of files, every email, every notification, every charge that did not belong to her. Lin worked through the night, running queries and mapping destinations like a forensic artist. By dawn, she had a diagram full of red lines that pointed to specific accounts and shell companies. She sent a marked copy back with notes about wire transfers to 2 foreign accounts and multiple local withdrawals. Nam Fong called the contacts he had at the fraud division and at a private forensic accounting firm. They agreed to stand by and to coordinate timing. but only when Lan Vy gave the word. She closed her eyes and felt the weight of that decision like a physical thing pressing on her chest. This was no longer about signatures and credit scores only. This was about a pattern of theft. She printed copies of the timeline and labeled each entry with dates, amounts, and corresponding text messages. She rehearsed what she would say at the table, like a witness, preparing for cross-examination. Her hand trembled when she folded the papers and put them into a slim leather folder. She packed the folder into her tote and left for the train without breakfast, the city moving around her like an indifferent sea. Arriving at her parents' house felt like stepping onto a stage where every gesture had been practiced. Her mother greeted her with an embrace that smelled faintly of perfume and garlic sauce, the same smell as childhood dinners. Lan Vy felt the embrace as though through glass, apart from the warmth and wholly separate from trust. She let herself sit at the head of the table and watched her brother pick at his plate, eyes avoiding hers. Her father told a joke about an old business contact, the kind of small talk that settles dust over hard things. Lan Vy listened until the laughter broke like thin ice, and she could not hold back any longer. She set the folder on the table so that it made a sound that cut through the family's rhythm. Then she opened it slowly and slid the papers toward the center where everyone could see. She read dates and amounts aloud in a voice that did not waver, letting the numbers do the accusing. Her mother's hand trembled over a fork, and her father's face went an expression that had no words. Her brother swallowed and looked smaller than she remembered, as if the truth had folded him inward. Lan Vy watched each face as if studying evidence, searching for cracks where remorse might show. She did not look for apologies. She had learned better than to expect them easily. She spoke of trust and reputation, of elderly investors and ruined savings, and of the long reach of consequences. Her words landed in the room and settled like dust on a polished surface, visible now and impossible to ignore. When she finished, she rose, gathered her coat, and left the house with the folder under her arm. She walked away without closing the door, letting it stand open like a question she would answer with action. The night air was heavy as Lan Vy returned to the city. Streetlights flickered against the windshield while silence filled the car. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale, breath measured. She replayed every word from that dinner, every lie disguised as love. Her father's tone, calm and commanding, still echoed in her mind. "Family helps each other, Vi. Don't be dramatic," he had said. Her mother's tears had come right on cue, soft and shimmering like old habits. Even her brother's apology felt rehearsed, shaped to disarm her anger. They had spoken of loyalty, as if it were a currency she owed them. But she was done paying the price for other people's comfort. When she reached home, her phone was flashing with missed calls. Her mother, her father, her brother, each message carrying the same plea. "We can fix this, sweetheart. Please don't make it worse. We're still family." Lan Vy deleted them all without listening to the end. She poured a glass of water and stared at her reflection in the kitchen window. The woman staring back looked older, harder, but finally awake. She turned on her laptop and opened a new document labeled Evidence Log. She began typing every event, every date, every transaction in perfect order. No more emotion, no more hesitation, only facts and clarity. At 2 a.m., Linha's message arrived with new information. 3 credit cards had been opened under her name months earlier. Payments had been made until recently, always just enough to avoid alerts. It was deliberate, precise, and familiar, her mother's meticulous kind of crime. Nam Fong called minutes later, his voice steady but tense. "The bank confirmed forged authorizations," he said. "They used your ID." Lan Vy closed her eyes, then exhaled through clenched teeth. "They always said I was responsible," she whispered. "Guess I am even now." Nam Fong didn't laugh. "Tomorrow we start the legal process," he said. She nodded though he couldn't see her. "Tomorrow," she agreed. The next morning, Sunlight cut through the blinds like a verdict. She dressed in black, simple and sharp, the armor of a lawyer who had lost belief. At the office, she and Nam Fong met Lin Ha with stacks of reports and affidavits. Every document became a weapon, every page a fragment of betrayal. By noon, they had enough evidence to file charges and freeze accounts. Lan Vy signed each page with deliberate strokes, her real signature reclaiming its power. She didn't flinch when the notary stamped the seal over her initials. This was not revenge, it was restoration. The truth, once written, felt heavier than guilt but lighter than fear. That evening, she walked along the riverside, phone buzzing again in her bag. Her mother's name glowed on the screen, bright and persistent. She let it ring until the sound died away into the hum of the city. She watched the river catch the light of a passing train and thought of freedom. Not the kind given, but the kind earned through breaking chains of silence. Lan Vy whispered into the night, voice quiet but final. I'm done saving people who never tried to save me. Then she turned toward the skyline, ready for what came next. The investigation spread like wildfire through quiet systems and polished offices. Lin had traced the wire transfers with surgical precision, her eyes cold and sharp. Each path of stolen money led to familiar names hidden behind shell accounts. Her parents' signatures appeared beside those of retired investors and small firms. They had used Lan Vy's name as a golden key to unlock trust. Nam Fong built a case file thick as a brick, each page a wound that spoke. He cross-checked the data with bank records, legal letters, and notary stamps. By evening, they discovered something far bigger than identity theft. It was an organized fraud ring centered around the city business club. Members believed they were investing in safe community projects. In truth, the funds disappeared into foreign accounts under her father's control. Her mother had handled communication, charming investors with soft words and warmth. Her brother had delivered documents for signing, smiling like the perfect son. Together, they had stolen more than 3 billion dong in less than a year. Lan Vy's chest ached as she stared at the numbers. She recognized some victims, neighbors, old teachers, even a friend from law school. They had trusted the Hart name her family had built for decades. Now that name was toxic, poisoned by greed disguised as love. Nam Fong laid a folder in front of her with a grim expression. Are you ready for what happens after this? He asked. Lan Vy met his gaze, her voice steady. I'm already living after. They submitted the evidence to the authorities and scheduled a formal statement. Within 48 hours, financial crime investigators arrived at her office. They questioned her carefully, verifying every timestamp and every transaction. Her hands did not shake when she signed her witness affidavit. She felt no fear, only exhaustion that had turned into resolve. That night, she stood by her window and watched the skyline blink with city light. Below, people lived in quiet ignorance of how fragile trust could be. She remembered her grandmother's voice, warning her years ago about easy kindness. Now she finally understood what the old woman had meant. Her phone buzzed again, her father's number. She ignored it, but the voicemail played itself automatically. Lan Vy, listen to me. We can fix this, don't ruin us. The sound of his voice no longer felt paternal, only desperate. Minutes later came a message from her mother, laced with guilt and tenderness. Sweetheart, your brother didn't mean harm. He only wanted a chance. Lan Vy stared at the words until they blurred on the screen. Then she deleted them without replying and opened her laptop again. New files appeared, bank confirmations, digital warrants, legal drafts. The system was moving, and there was no stopping it now. By morning, the first accounts were frozen and investigations had gone public. News headlines flashed across financial forums, nomming the suspects and the scheme. Her phone filled with messages from former clients and journalists seeking comment. She wrote only one statement and sent it to all. The truth does not destroy families. Lies do. Then she turned off her phone, shut her laptop, and whispered to herself, "It's time they face what they built with my name." The courtroom was bright and cold, every sound echoing off marble and wood. Lan Vy sat at the witness stand, palms resting flat against smooth oak. Across from her sat her parents and brother, faces pale and guarded. Her mother's pearls gleamed like small lies, polished for the occasion. Her father adjusted his tie, the gesture mechanical, stripped of authority. Her brother's hands shook, fingers tracing invisible circles on the table. The judge entered, robes sweeping the floor, voice calm but commanding. "All rise," the bailiff said, and the air itself seemed to tighten. Lan Vy stood, spine straight, heart steady, eyes fixed on the truth ahead. The prosecutor began, laying out charts and statements that mapped the fraud. Every arrow pointed to the same center, her family's careful deception. Investors lost savings, retirees sold homes, lives dismantled for someone's greed. When her turn came, Lan Vy's voice filled the room, clear and precise. She recounted the forged papers, the fake accounts, the trust abused. Her words were sharp but restrained, each syllable a measured blade. Her father's lawyer rose with a practiced smile and gentle tone. "Miss Vy," he began, "your parents acted from desperation, not malice." "Desperation does not steal $3 billion," she replied without pause. He shifted, tried again. "They were protecting the family's future." "By destroying mine?" she asked, her voice calm but cold. The lawyer's gaze faltered, the question hanging heavy in the silence. Her mother wept softly, tears falling on folded hands, a scene rehearsed too well. "Your mother has shown remorse," the defense continued. "Surely you see that." Lan Vy looked at her mother, then the judge. "Remorse without responsibility is just another lie," she said quietly. Gasps rippled through the courtroom, breaking the fragile stillness. Her brother's lawyer tried a softer approach, speaking of youth and influence. "He followed their example," the lawyer said, voice almost pleading. Lan Vy turned to her brother, eyes tired but not cruel. "You could have stopped," she said. "You knew what was right." He dropped his gaze, unable to meet her eyes again. The prosecutor presented the last evidence: bank transfers, voice recordings, forged contracts. Each piece landed like a gavel, before the final one had even struck. The judge reviewed the files in silence, her expression unreadable. When she finally spoke, her tone was firm and unwavering. "This court finds the defendants guilty on all counts of financial fraud." Her father closed his eyes. Her mother whispered a prayer under her breath. Her brother let out a sound between a sob and a sigh. Sentences fell one after another like stones in still water. 17 years for the father, 14 for the mother, 8 for the brother. Lan Vy did not move as handcuffs clicked, and footsteps faded down the hall. Her mother looked back once, lips trembling with a broken word. Lan Vy stayed silent. The time for words had ended. Outside, the air smelled of rain, clean and sharp like something new. Reporters waited with microphones, flashes of cameras cutting through the gray. She said only one sentence before walking away. "Justice doesn't heal love, but it frees it from lies." Then she stepped into the rain, letting it wash away the last shadow of family. 6 months passed, and the world moved quietly around her. Lan Vy no longer worked in glass towers or corporate boardrooms. Her new office was small, bright, and full of patient silence. The sign on the door read, "Center for Financial Victim Support." She founded it with Nam Fong and Lin Ha, both still by her side. Their desks overflowed with forms, case files, and handwritten notes. Every story was a different kind of betrayal, but sounded painfully familiar. An old man tricked by his own son. A widow swindled by her nephew. A teacher whose sister forged her pension documents. Lan Vy listened to them all, her voice steady, never cold. She no longer carried anger. She carried understanding shaped by scars. At night, she stayed late, drafting proposals for new legal protections. Her amendment, The Vy Act would tighten laws on familial financial fraud. It would close loopholes her parents had once slipped through easily. Each clause she wrote felt like reclaiming something stolen. Some mornings, she visited victims whose cases she had helped resolve. She watched relief replace shame in their faces, a quiet redemption. Her grandmother's old watch still rested on her wrist, ticking softly. The faint scratch on its glass reminded her of survival and legacy. One evening, she joined Nam Fong and Lin Ha for dinner downtown. They talked not about cases, but about books, movies, and small joys. They laughed easily, something she had forgotten how to do for years. When the bill came, Nam Fong raised his glass in a quiet toast. "To the family we choose," he said, smiling. She clinked her glass against his, warmth settling deep in her chest. Later, walking home under soft streetlight, she saw her reflection in shop glass. She looked calm, not fragile like someone rebuilt from truth. Her phone vibrated with a new message. Unknown number. Mom's parole hearing next week. She asked if you'll attend. She stared at it for a long time, heart still but not hard. Then she deleted the message without replying. Forgiveness, she thought, was not the same as return. At the office the next day, a young woman waited in the lobby. She held a thick folder, eyes red from sleepless nights. "I need help," she said, voice trembling. "My brother took everything." Lan Vy gestured to the seat across her desk. "I understand," she said softly. "You're not alone." The woman's relief broke into tears, hands shaking over the folder. Lan Vy passed her a tissue, the gesture simple but grounding. As the woman began her story, Lan Vy listened without judgment. The cycle was familiar, but now she knew how to stop it. Outside, the city pulsed with evening light, steady and alive. Her watch ticked in rhythm with her heartbeat, unhurried and sure. Strength, she realized, was no longer about standing against pain. It was about turning pain into purpose and silence into guidance. When the day ended, she locked her office, stepped into the fading light. Tomorrow, more stories would arrive, and she would be ready. This time, not as a victim, but as the one who helped others rise. The morning sun spilled through the office window, soft and golden. Lan Vy adjusted the last frame on the wall, a letter of gratitude. It was from a victim she had once helped rebuild her savings and peace. She traced the words with her fingertips, feeling the quiet weight of meaning. Her phone buzzed with new messages, new cases waiting to be heard. Outside, the city was waking, full of voices of second chances. She slipped her grandmother's watch onto her wrist and smiled faintly. The tick echoed through the still room, steady and forgiving. She thought of her parents, not with anger, but with distance and clarity. Some stories never found redemption, but they still found closure. She locked the door and stepped into the bright corridor. The day ahead stretched wide, clean and full of possibility. A young volunteer greeted her with a hopeful grin. "Ready for another day?" the girl asked. Lan Vy nodded, her voice calm, certain. "Always," she said. Strength wasn't born from victory or vengeance anymore. It lived quietly in persistence, in truth, in starting over. As she walked into the light, she whispered one last thought. Not everyone deserves your trust, but some people earn it.